chapter 17, verses 20, 21, and 22 today. These are about how to be charitable. We were told at the beginning of the chapter 17 that this is coming. One of the things that Krishna was going to discuss about is how to define a person based on the nature of how he or she gives. And the definition is, of course, going to be in the three categories that we are familiar with: sattvic, rajas, and tamas. Most of us give. We give. For example, when we go to a temple, we are climbing up the steps of a temple up in the hill. There are lined up beggars. We shouldn't probably call them beggars anymore politically. But they are sitting there asking. And many of us bend down to give the money. Some of us just throw like that, keep walking while throwing some small changes. Sometimes you would even notice that some of those who are sitting there ignore the changes, the small coins. Nevertheless, you can see right there different ways of giving. There are birds I always tend to bring in the non-human nature, living things into my thoughts whenever I read Bhagavad Gita, because I tend to believe that me as a human need all these rules, this Bhagavad Gita and everything. But the animal kingdom generally don't seem to need it because they follow many of the rules that are being taught to me innately. So birds, there is a bird, cowbird, which basically travels with bison in America. And they eat those small, tiny fleas and insects that are surrounding the bison, because the bison carry a lot of things due to the way their lifestyle is, that are edible for the insects. And those insects are good food for the cowbirds. So they travel with the bison. Because they travel everywhere the bison is going, they are unable to settle down and build nests. So what they do, in order to have their species survive, they lay their eggs in some other birds' nests, often in cardinals' nests. Cardinals are red birds. But the cardinals, when the hatchlings come out, feed them. Feed these little ones. They don't even question, looks like they are different. What's going on over here? They are in my nest. I brought food. I'm going to feed it to every one of them. It's often at the cost of one of their own hatchlings. In other words, if there are 2 of the cardinals and 2 of cowbirds, little ones, they'll feed all the 4 equally. Sometimes not all of them get the same amount. They try to feed them equally. There is always competition, if you notice, in a nest. So sometimes one of the cardinals get the least. Cardinals, they fly away, and when they fly away, they notice, well, look at this. This is red. I mean, like, it's somewhat getting red. The juvenile patterns, somewhat camouflage. You don't know which is which. But they fly away. Cowbirds are happy, and these cowbirds grow up and they go and follow another bison nest. They don't nest, they lay their eggs in some other bird's nests. And this continues. But from the point of view of cardinals, they gave without expecting anything in return. No complaints about how what they gave was distributed. Can I do that as a human? When I give, can I give without any expectation in return? And give without thinking who I am giving to. That's, it's a cause that I usually give to. If I could do that, then Bhagavad Gita says that you are in the category of sattvic. But if you're giving, let's say, to a politician, hoping that person would give me something in return, quid pro quo. We hear that very often these days in the context of politics. That obviously is not sattvic. I am expecting something in return, and I will make sure the person I give to notices that I am giving you a big gift, and that is the rajas category. And then the one that I talked about earlier, throwing that coin to the beggar. You're sitting there, and I've got the money. I'm just going to give you. And just here, right? Okay. You're not giving a lot. You're just throwing some change. But you're doing it in a reproachful way. And that is tamas category. That sort of is my understanding of these 3 verses.